Go.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to our lesson for today. Today we will continue with topic 8 and 9, which is on pure competition. Topic 8 is on pure competition in the short run, while topic 9 is on pure competition in the long run. Okay, let's look at some basic information about pure competition. Okay, so pure competition is part of the four market structures that we will discuss. So the four market structures is located in a continuum of competition, the level of competition in the market, where pure competition would have the highest level of competition, whereas pure monopoly without any competition at all. In between these two extremes, we have monopolistic competition, which is closer to pure competition, and oligopoly, which has characteristics closer to pure monopoly. However, for today we will start with the first market model, which is pure competition. Some of these features I have discussed in our previous lectures, but I just recap the basic features here for your convenience. Okay, we have very large number of sellers. That is why pure competition is considered to be the market structure that has the highest degree of competition. They are all selling homogeneous product, standardized product. They are price takers. We will have a look at this point. The sellers are price takers in a way that they will take the market equilibrium price as their selling price. There's a free entry and exit. There's no market barrier for firms to enter to the industry, and the demand curve facing the firm is perfectly elastic. In other words, customers will be highly sensitive in terms of the price charged by the sellers. If the seller charge any price above the market price, their sales may drop to zero, because customers can buy the standardized product from so many other sellers in the market at the market price, and there's no reason for the customers to buy from that particular seller who wants to increase the price above the market price. Okay? Alright. Okay, when we talk about pure competition, we will always have two separate diagrams. One diagram is for the industry, the other one is for the individual firms. So you have the demand and supply curve in the industry, and then you have the demand facing the firm. An individual firm represent one of the maybe hundreds or thousands of firms operating in a purely competitive market. So any changes in the market demand or supply can influence the market demand. Can influence the market equilibrium price, and therefore it can also influence the demand facing the firm. For example, in this diagram, the market equilibrium price is $40. So market demand and market supply resulted in the market equilibrium price of $50. So the firm will take the market equilibrium price of $50 as its selling price. If, for example, there is an increase in the market demand, going back. Okay, so if there is an increase in market demand, for example, D1 shifted to D2, so that will result in a higher market price, which is 60. Therefore, the firm's demand curve will also be shifting upward here for $60. Or if, let's say, supply curve shift as well. If, let's say, supply curve shift from S1 to S2, then the new market equilibrium price will go back to $50, and therefore the firm's demand curve will shift back to $50. So what I'm trying to highlight here is that the firms in a purely competitive market will take whatever the market equilibrium price as its selling price, and the market demand and market supply changes in market demand and market supply can influence the equilibrium price, and therefore can influence the price that the firm will take as their selling price. Okay, because the firm's demand curve is perfectly elastic, yeah, we can see it from our earlier diagram, perfectly elastic demand curve, yeah, this one, perfectly elastic demand, perfectly horizontal. The reason why the firm has a perfectly horizontal demand curve here is because there are so many sellers in the market and they are all selling standardized product. Yeah, let's say one of the seller decided to increase the price above the market price. Let's say the current market price is $50. So if let's say seller A tried to sell the product for $51, then the customers, given that they have so many sellers that they can buy from, will not be buying from this seller. Yeah? So the firm's sales will drop basically to zero. So the customers will have very, very sensitive response to any changes on the price of the product. Secondly, because there are so many sellers in the market, the production decision of one single seller will not have any impact on the market supply. Yeah? So the seller here, the producer here, can produce 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 or 20 units, yeah, of this product, and able to sell all of these units at the same market price. Yeah? So the seller doesn't have to reduce its price in order to sell additional units in the market. This is because the production contribution of this seller as compared to the whole market is very small. Yeah? So if the seller here decides to increase output, let's say from 5 units to 10 units, mathematically we have 5 additional units in the market. But since the purely competitive market is very huge, let's say we have 1,000 sellers in the market. Yeah? So the decision of one seller increasing its output by 5 units will not have any material impact to the market supply. Yeah? Just like you have a cup of water, when you put several drops of water, you know that the quantity of water in that cup is greater, yeah, because you have actually dropped several drops of water. Yeah? But when you look at the level, the water level, they look the same, yeah, because the addition is very immaterial. So because the addition in terms of the production level by one firm, yeah, because there are so many firms in the industry, the decision of one firm doesn't have any material impact to the market supply. Since market supply doesn't shift, so the market equilibrium price remains at that level. Yeah? So that is why individual firms in the purely competitive market can continue to sell additional unit even at the same price. So they don't have to reduce price in order to sell additional units. So because of that, because of the fact that they are able to sell additional unit without having to reduce their price, therefore the marginal revenue will be equal to the price and also the average revenue. Basically, average revenue is the price. Yeah? Average revenue is total revenue divided by the quantity of output. Marginal revenue is the change in total revenue divided by the change in quantity. Okay, and price remains at the same level because the seller can sell additional unit at the same price.
Slide 6, your composition. Slide 7, short run profit maximization, Slide 6, your composition. Demand firms, demand, schedule, average, revenue, firms, revenue.
Okay, so because of that, the demand curve of the firm will be the same as its marginal revenue curve, and will also be the same as the price of the product. Yeah? So the demand curve here represents three things, or in other words, the demand curve overlaps the marginal revenue curve and also overlaps the average revenue or the price. So you have this perfectly elastic demand also representing the marginal revenue curve and also representing the average revenue.
Slide 7. Short run profit maximization full market prices given P equals MR. Both 3 questions.
Okay, now let's look at profit maximization. Yeah? We have looked at the revenue structure of the firm, yeah, where the demand curve is also the marginal revenue curve, and it's also the average revenue or the price. So now we will combine our discussion in topic 7, which is on the cost of production, with what we just discussed here, the revenue structure of the firm, and go to the next analysis, which is profit maximization for purely competitive firms. Okay, so in order to understand producer's decision, there are 3 important questions that we need to answer. Okay, the first one, should the firm produce the product given that the price is given in the market? Yeah, so the firm doesn't have any control over the price. Normally, for producers, they have a number of things that they need to decide. The first one, how much they want to charge for the price. The second one, how much they want to produce the products, yeah, the quantity of products that they want to produce in order to maximize profit. However, in the case of pure competition, they don't have any ability to determine price. Yeah, price is given by the market, yeah, through the market equilibrium price. So the only thing that they can decide is how much they would produce given the prevailing market price. So these are the questions, whether they should produce or not at the market equilibrium price, because as we have seen earlier, market equilibrium price can go up and can go down depending on changes in market demand or changes in market supply. If the firm would want to produce, then what would be the level of output? That is the second question. And what would be the profits or loss for the firm when they actually produce? Remember that firms not necessarily produce when they can make profits. Some firms, even though they are making losses, they still continue producing. The reason is because not producing will give them larger losses. Yeah? So we can have firms who produce and make profit. We can also have firms who produce and minimize loss. Okay? Okay, so in order for us to identify the profit maximization level of output, these are the 3 steps. Yeah? Step number 1 is to find where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. So this is for the marginal revenue, marginal cost analysis that we will use largely in this topic. Number 2, compare the price with average variable cost. Yeah? So this is important for the decision whether to produce or not. If the price is above average variable cost, the firm should produce in order to minimize loss. So remember, I have just said that firms can actually produce even when they are making losses in order to minimize those losses. Shutting down or stop producing as a whole may contribute to larger losses. Yeah? And finally, whether they are making profits or not, then we need to compare the price with average total cost. Yeah? If the price is above average total cost, it means that the price per unit will cover all the cost per unit, and therefore the firms will make profits. Yeah? So just remember these 3 steps when we come to the analysis of profit maximization using the marginal revenue, marginal cost curve. Okay, so in addition to the marginal revenue, marginal cost curve, we also have the total revenue, total cost curve. Total revenue, total cost approach. Yeah. So we will discuss this one first because this is relatively straightforward, and we don't use this as much as the marginal revenue, marginal cost approach. Yeah. So just a quick look at the first approach, which is the total revenue, total cost approach. Basically, the firm should produce at the point where there is the largest gap between total revenue and total cost. Yeah. So the largest gap between total revenue and total cost, in the positive way, will result in the maximum profit for the firm. And then we have the second approach that I have just described earlier, marginal revenue, marginal cost approach. Okay, let's look at the numerical example here. The cost figures, total fixed cost, total variable cost, and total cost figures, they are all taken from topic 7. Yeah? We have discussed this earlier. And now we are assuming that the market price for the product is 131. Okay, look at now total revenue column. Yeah, total revenue column. Total revenue column is on column number 5. Yeah, so total revenue is basically price times quantity. Yeah, remember the market equilibrium price for this product is assumed to be 131. So when we don't produce and sell any unit, so total revenue will be 0 times 131. Yeah? When we sell 1 unit, total revenue will be 1 times 131, so $131. When we produce 2 units, total revenue will be 2 times 131, so we have $262 total revenue. When we produce 3 times 131, $393 total revenue, and so on. Okay, so once we have the figures for total revenue, then we take the total revenue figures minus the total cost figures. Yeah, so in other words, column number 5 minus column number 4 to get column number 6, which is total profit. Once we are able to get the figures for total profits at all levels of output, we search for the amount of profit that is the highest. Yeah? In this example, you can see that the highest amount of total profit can be obtained if the firm produced at 9 units of output, where the total profit is 299. Yeah? At any other level of output, there can be profits as well, yeah, but not as high as what you can find at quantity number 9. So we can also look at the diagram here. Yeah. So you have the total revenue curve. Yeah. Straight line, upward sloping. Yeah. And then you have the total cost curve. Yeah. So initially the total cost curve is above the total revenue curve. This is where the firm is making losses. Yeah. If total revenue is below total cost, firms will make losses. And then the total cost curve cuts the total revenue curve. That point where total revenue equals total cost is the break-even point. Yeah, where we also recognize as the normal profit level. Total revenue equals total cost. Yeah? In this case, total cost includes all explicit and implicit costs. And then after that, total cost goes below total revenue. Yeah? So when the total cost is below total revenue, the firm is currently making profits. But we want to know at what point that the firm is making the largest profit. So the largest profit will be at the point where the vertical gap between total revenue and total cost is the largest. Yeah? The vertical gap basically represent the amount of profits. And in this diagram, it is showing that at 9 units of output, total profit will be the highest, at 299.
0, 2. Slide show, slide 9, total revenue, total cost. Slide show, slide 11, marginal revenue, marginal cost.
Okay. Now let's look at the marginal revenue, marginal cost approach. Yeah, marginal revenue, marginal cost approach. Now, when we use marginal revenue, marginal cost approach, we need to have the figures for marginal revenue and also figures for marginal cost.
5, output, 2, average, fixed, cost, AFC 3, average, very cost, ADC 4, average, total cost, ADC 6, marginal revenue, MR, 7, profit, plus or cost. 0, or cost, profit, 7. Profit plus 7 MR. Revenue. Marginal 6. ATC. Cost. Total. Average 4. Average. Total. Cost. ATC 6.
Okay. We know that every time we sell one additional unit of output, we are able to sell it at the market price of 131. So we compare the marginal cost and the marginal revenue and see whether we will be able to make any profit. If the firm is making additional profit, the firm should produce. Yeah? For example, producing the first unit of output, okay, from 0 to 1, what will be the additional cost? Yeah? Marginal cost is about additional cost. Of course, you will have fixed costs. Yeah? But fixed costs will not change as you increase your output. What matters here in terms of the marginal cost is the increase in variable cost. Yeah? So this can be computed by looking at the amount of the change in total cost or the change in total variable cost. So the marginal cost figures is already given here. Yeah? For example, if we want to produce the first unit of output, the marginal cost will be $90. Okay? If we produce the first unit of output, we need to incur $90 of output, $90 of additional cost. But when we sell that in the market, we are able to get 131. Yeah. So the additional cost, remember our first topic in the cost, yeah, marginal analysis, yeah, comparing marginal benefit and marginal cost. So the marginal benefit here is 131. The amount of revenue or additional revenue that you are able to get by selling that one additional unit in the market. But the marginal cost is only 90. As long as the marginal benefit is greater than the marginal cost, you should proceed with that decision. Yeah? So we produce the first unit of output and sell it in the market for 131 because the marginal cost is only 90. Okay? Now, should we produce the second unit of output and sell it in the market? So the marginal revenue or the additional revenue by producing and selling that second unit will be 131 as well. But the cost, additional cost is only $80. So by producing the second unit, you incur an additional cost of $80. But you are able to sell it for 131. The difference will be added to your existing profits. Yeah? Alright? So, should we produce and sell the third unit? By producing and selling the third unit, we are able to get another $131, yeah, in the market. Yeah? The price is 131. And in order to produce the third unit, we will incur an additional cost of 70. Yeah, $70. Yeah, so our additional cost is $70. Our additional revenue is 131. Yeah, the difference will be added to our existing cumulative profit. So in other words, as long as the additional revenue or marginal revenue, and since we know that marginal revenue for purely competitive firm is also the price, yeah, market price and marginal revenue, they are the same. The purely competitive firm can sell additional unit at the same price, which is the market equilibrium price. Yeah. So in other words, as long as the marginal revenue or price is greater than marginal cost, we should continue to produce. Yeah. But the moment that the marginal revenue is less than marginal cost, we should not produce. Yeah? If marginal cost is already larger than marginal revenue, then the difference will no longer additional profit. It will be losses, right? So we will stop at the point where marginal revenue is just equal to the marginal cost. So from this diagram, from this table, where should we stop? Should we produce the fourth unit? Yes, yeah, marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. Should we produce the fifth unit? Yes. The sixth unit? Yes. The seventh unit? Yes. The eighth unit? Yes. The ninth unit? Yes. And then we see that marginal revenue is almost exactly equal to the marginal cost. Yeah? Marginal cost is 130, right? Okay. Anything beyond this, for example, at 10 unit of output, marginal cost is already beyond marginal revenue. Yeah? So if we produce the 10th unit, we are not adding more to the profits. We are taking away some of the profits that we have accumulated earlier. Yeah? So we should not be producing the 10th unit because marginal revenue is 131, but marginal cost is already 150, more than 131. Yeah? So in this case, we will stop and produce only up to 9 units of output. And if we look at the average total cost here, yeah, at 9 units of output, how much is it? So the price is 131. The cost per unit at 9 units of output will be how much? Column number 4. Dekat 9 units, berapa nilai?
Number 4.
Unit. 9 units. Ada tak 9 units?
Ada. 11.11.
Ke kanan? Sebelah dia?
86.67.
Sebelah dia lagi?
97.78.
Oh, okay. So the cost per unit is 97.78. Yeah. So the price is 131. So 131 minus 97.78 will give you the profit per unit. Yeah. But you don't produce 1 unit, right? You produce 9 units. So 131 minus 97.78 times 9, you will get the total profit. Yeah. Which will also be 299. Yeah. The same when we have used the total revenue, total cost approach earlier. Okay.
Slide 15. Short run shutdown case. Lower device worth 71,000. Observed results. Cost and revenue 200,000. 150, 150, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Output short run shutdown case and short run shutdown case. FR equals D. Slide 14. Short run cost and lower device at 81,000. Slide 13. Short run profit maximization. Short run profit maximization. Bullet focus FR equals short run bullet focus FR equals bullet summer cost still with us. Slide 12. Cost and revenue 200,000. 150, 150, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Output economic profit FR equals DMC. FR equals MCA ATC. T equals 131,000. That equals 97 marginal revenue marginal cost of 912. 912. Slide 11. Marginal revenue marginal cost approach. 1. Total. Product. Output 2. Average. Fixed. Slide 12. Cost and revenue 200,000. 150, 150.
Okay, let's look at the diagram here. Yeah. So the diagram here is showing the marginal revenue, marginal cost approach. So you have marginal cost, you have average variable cost, you have average total cost. And then you have the demand curve equal the marginal revenue curve equals the price. Okay. So remember the 3 steps that we have highlighted earlier. The first one is to identify the point where MR equal MC. Can you see where MR equal MC? Right? So MR equal MC, and then locate the quantity. Yeah, in this case, MR equal MC is somewhere here. MR equal MC, and you locate the quantity. Quantity here 9. Yeah, 9 quantity. So that is the first step. Identify where MR equal MC on the diagram and locate the quantity here, 9 units of output. The second step is to compare price and average variable cost. Yeah. from the 9 units that you have identified here, you trace it up. So compare whether the price is above or below average variable cost. In this example, the price is above average variable cost. So when the price is above average variable cost, it means that the firm should produce. Yeah, the firm should produce. Okay, and then compare between price and average total cost. Okay, step number 2 and number 3 we can also switch. Yeah? You can use step 3 as step 2 or step 2 as step 3. Okay, so let us use the second one first. Yeah, compare price and average total cost. If you look at this diagram, price is above average total cost at 9 units of output. Yeah, so price is above average total cost at 9 units of output. In other words, the firm is currently making profits. Yeah, because the price is revenue per unit. Average total cost is cost per unit. Yeah, so the price here is 131. The average total cost at 9 units is 97.78. Yeah, so the profit per unit is 131 minus 97.78. That is profit per unit, but you are producing 9 units, right? So times 9. So the box here, yeah, the shaded area here represent the total profit to the firm. Okay, total profit to the firm.
Slide 13. Short run profit maximization. Short run profit maximization. Bullets upper loss still reduce.
Okay, remember that the price of the product is determined by market forces. Yeah, suppose that let's say there is an economic crisis. What we are currently facing now, a significant decline in market demand because of the lower purchasing power of consumers. Some of the people in the labor force lost their jobs, and therefore their purchasing power has declined. As a result, the market demand is lower and the market equilibrium price has declined from, let's say, 131 down to only $81. Okay, so what happened is the demand facing the firm will shift from earlier 131 down to $81. Okay, let's see what is happening here for this firm. First step, find MR equal MC. Yeah, find MR equal MC. So find MR equal MC in the diagram here. Yeah, okay. If you can see MR equal MC, and then you trace it down, then you will see that the firm should produce at 6 unit. Dia label kat bawah. 6 unit.
Tadi cuma ABC.
Dia turun bawah. Tak ada unit.
Tak ada. Dia made ABC.
Slide 14. Short run profit
Jadi bawah ada 6. Output.
Berapa?
Output 6.
Output 6. Okay. Okay. So suppose that the price has gone down from 131 down to 81. Yeah, and therefore the demand curve and the marginal revenue curve and the price for the firm has shifted downward. Yeah. Okay. So let's start again. Step 1, identify where MR equal MC. Yeah, MR equal MC, and locate the quantity. Yeah. So the quantity here at MR equal MC is 6. Okay. Step 2, compare the price and ATC. Compare the price and average total cost. So when you look at this, the price at 6 unit, you trace it up, you will see that the price is now below the average total cost. The price is below average total cost. In other words, the firm is currently making losses. So should the firm continue to produce or not? Okay, so if the firm continue to produce, the firm will make losses. Yeah. for example here, the firm's price is 81, yeah, but average total cost here, is above 81, so the firm is making losses. What is another alternative? Another alternative for the firm is to continue to produce and absorb these losses. Should the firm continue to produce and minimize loss? It depends on how much would be the total loss that the firm will face if the firm actually close down. Okay, so when the firm close down, will their loss be equal to zero? No. Yeah, remember the firm is operating in the short run. There are two types of costs: fixed costs and variable costs. Even if the firm decided to close down, it doesn't mean that their cost will be zero. They still need to pay for their fixed costs. Yeah, for example, the fixed cost we have used in this exercise is 100. So the firm still needs to pay for $100 of fixed costs. Maybe rental for the business premise for $100. So that is still a cost to the firm. And when the firm closed down, they don't produce anything, there's no revenue to the firm. So revenue is zero, but cost is there, 100. So the total loss if the firm closed down will be 0 minus 100, which is $100 of total loss. Yeah. Okay. So what would be the indicator that will enable us to identify whether the firm should produce or not when the firm is making loss? That's why we have the last step, step 3, is to compare between price and average variable cost. Okay, so when we compare price and average total cost, we are able to identify whether the firm is making losses or making profit. But if the firm is making losses, then we need to go to another indicator, which is to compare the price and average variable cost. If the price is below average variable cost, then we should close down. But in this example, the price is above average variable cost. When the price is above average variable cost, it means that the firm is able to cover all variable costs and part of the fixed cost. Yeah? So since the price here is above average variable cost at 6 units of output, then the firm is able to cover all variable costs plus some part of the fixed cost. Yeah? So because the price is able to cover some part of the fixed cost, when the firm continue to produce 6 units, the total loss of the firm will be less than the total fixed cost, which is amounting to $100. Yeah, in other words, do we have ada value tak V? Berapa V? Azari, kat tepi ni ada value V.
Value V 75.
75.
Yeah.
Okay. So the variable cost here is 75. The price here is 81, right? So the price of 81 is able to cover 75 variable cost per unit. The remaining is another $6. Yeah? So $6 per unit for the fixed cost. So in other words, if the firm continue to produce 6 units of output, the firm will make a loss of $36. Sorry, $64. Yeah? The firm will make a loss of $64. Yeah? $64. However, if the firm close down, then the firm will make a total loss equivalent to the total fixed cost. Because when you close down, total revenue is 0, but you still need to pay for the fixed cost. And since the fixed cost is $100, you will have a total loss of $100. Yeah? So when we compare these two options, producing 6 units of output and incur a loss of $64, this would be better than if we close down and we incur a total loss of $100. Yeah? So in this example, since the price is relatively low, the firm is hanging on in the industry, try to survive in the industry by producing and minimizing loss.
Slide 15. Short run shutdown case.
Okay, this is a short run shutdown case.
Observe results. Cost and revenue. $200. 150. 150. 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slide 16. Short run supply curve. Short run supply curve. Slide 15.
Okay, this one. What happened if the market price continue to fall? In this example, the market price further fall to $71. Again, let's use the step-by-step analysis. Identify where MR equal MC, yeah, and then locate the quantity. Yeah, in this example, the quantity is quantity kat bawah 5. 5, alright. So the quantity is 5. Secondly, determine whether the firm is making a profit or loss. Yeah, from 5 units of output here, you trace it up. You see whether the price is above or below ATC. At 5 units of output, the price is actually below average total cost. So we know that the firm is making losses. Should the firm produce? Then we need to compare price and average variable cost. Yeah, here the price is below average variable cost. In other words, the firm's price that they receive by selling the product is not even enough to cover the variable cost per unit. What more to cover the fixed cost per unit. So when the price is below average variable cost, the loss minimization decision would be to close down. Closing down will cost the firm $100 because that is the amount of the fixed cost. Yeah, closing down, so you have zero revenue, but you still need to pay for the fixed cost of 100, so your total loss will be 100. Yeah? In other words, the loss to a purely competitive firm when they decided to close down in the short run will be equal to the amount of fixed cost. Yeah? In this case, the fixed cost is $100, so the loss of closing down the business is $100. But if the firm produced 5 units of output here at $71 per unit, yeah, which is the market price, the firm will incur much larger losses. In this example, the loss minimization decision is to close down. Earlier, the loss minimization decision is to continue producing, yeah, because by producing 6 units earlier at $81 per unit, the firm's loss is only $64 compared to $100 if they close down. In this example, the firms should close down, yeah, because closing down will incur smaller losses as compared to producing. Okay, now from this exercise, we are able to actually derive the supply curve. Yeah, derive the supply curve of the firm. Yeah, if we continue with other potential prices, then we are able to also identify the output level that will enable the firms to maximize profit or minimize losses. Let's look at this table. Yeah? If the price in the market is 151, we will be producing 10 units. The firm will be producing 10 units and maximize profit. If the price is 131, the firm would maximize profit by producing 9 units. If the price is 111, the firm will produce 8 units. If the price is 91, the firm would produce 7 units. If the price is 81, as we have seen earlier, the firm would produce 6 units. If the price is 71, then the firm would not produce anything. So any price below 71, the firm will not produce. The firm will only produce from $81 of market price onwards. Okay. So by plotting these points, you have you can draw the supply curve. On the y-axis you have the price, on the x-axis you have the quantity supplied. Yeah, so you have 6 unit of quantity supplied at $81 of price, 7 units at $91 of price, yeah, 8 unit at 111 of price, yeah, 9 units at 131, and 10 units at 151. Then when you join all of these points, you will have an upward sloping supply curve. So remember topic 6, yeah? Topic 6 we discussed about the utility theory of consumers, yeah? We were able to derive the demand curve for individual consumers, and we have actually proven that when consumers maximizes utility, they will buy more of the product when the price is lower, yeah? And in other words, we have proven the downward sloping demand curve, yeah, by using the utility maximization exercise. In this example, yeah, we are also able to prove that the supply curve of a firm is actually upward sloping. When the firm maximizes profit, the firm will produce more quantities of output whenever the price is higher, as shown by this table. Okay. Now, in the diagram, we can also identify the supply curve. Okay. Alright. So, suppose that the market equilibrium price can be P1, P2, P3, P4, P5. Yeah? We have seen earlier, right, that the market price can fluctuate depending on market demand and supply. If the market price is at P1, then what happened? MR equal MC at Q1. Yeah? MR equal MC at Q1. But when you trace upward at Q1, P1 is below average variable cost. Remember, we don't produce anything below average variable cost. Yeah? So here loss minimization would be to close down. Okay? Or we can also start from the top. Yeah? So the market price can be at P5. At P5, MR equal MC at point E. Yeah? MR equal MC at point E, and when you trace it down, the quantity should be at Q5. When you trace from Q5 upward, P5 is above average total cost. So since P5 is above average total cost, the firm should produce and maximize profit. Yeah? So this is more than normal profit level. Yeah? We call it economic profit. Whenever price is above average total cost, we call it economic profit. The price may also be at P4. Yeah? If the price is P4 here, MR4 equals MC at point D, and therefore the quantity will be Q4. So when you trace up from Q4 to the price, we see that price P4 is just equal to the average total cost. So when price just equal to average total cost, this is normal profit level or break-even level. The firm is able to cover all costs, implicit as well as explicit. It doesn't mean that the firm doesn't make any profit at all. Yeah. So the firm do make accounting profit plus the normal profit, but there's no additional economic profit. If the price is P3, then MR3 will be equal to MC at point C. Yeah, and the output is Q3. So when you trace Q3 upward, P3 is below ATC. Yeah, when P3 is below ATC at Q3, the firm is making losses. Should the firm produce or not? Yes, because P3 at Q3, P3 is still above average variable cost. So when the price is still above average variable cost, the firm should produce at Q3. And then P2. If the price in the market is P2, then MR2 equals to marginal cost at point B and the output is Q2. If you trace up, then P2 will be below ATC. Firms are making losses. But should the firm produce, P2 is just equal to the minimum point of average variable cost. So this indicates that the price that the firm receive will just enough to cover variable cost. Yeah? Not even able to cover the fixed cost. Yeah? So since none of the fixed cost is covered by the price, so it means that if the firm produce, the firm will incur the same amount of losses equivalent to the fixed cost. And if the firm close down, we already know that the firm's total loss will be equivalent to the total fixed cost. So P2 basically is the threshold. Yeah. If the price is exactly equal to the average variable cost, it means that if the firm produce, the firm will make a loss equivalent to the total fixed cost, and if the firm close down, the firm will also make losses equivalent to the total fixed cost. Yeah? So this is the minimum point, yeah, where the firm would want to decide to produce or not. Anything below P2, the firm will not produce. Anything above P2, the firm will produce. But if the price is exactly P2, then producing or closing down will give the firm the same amount of losses. Okay? So, based on this, we are able to derive the supply curve. Yeah? We will not produce at P1, so point A will not be part of the supply curve. Yeah? Because we will not produce Q1 if the price of P1. Yeah? So A is not a point along the supply curve. Should we produce P2 at P2, Q2? Should we produce Q2 at P2? This depends. Yeah? So I would assume that if the firm is already in operation and the price drop to P2, they will continue to produce as well, hoping that the price will bounce back. The price will go up. Yeah? If let's say the price goes even below P2, then they will decide to close down. Yeah, but if it is exactly at P2, because the business is already in the operation, they will hope that the price will bounce back so that they will make profits, or at least the loss is minimized. Yeah. So I'm assuming that if the price drop to P2, the firm will continue to produce Q2 at point B there, hoping that the price will go up. If the price is P3, then the firm will definitely produce Q3, yeah, at point C there, and they will minimize losses. If the price is P4, then the firm will definitely produce at Q4 there, shown by point D, yeah, and break even or just experience a normal profit. And if the price is P5, the firm will produce at Q5 as shown by point E there, and the firm here is making economic profits. Yeah, so we can derive the supply curve of the firm by joining the points there B, C, D, E. Yeah, yeah. So combining points B, C, D, and E represent the supply curve of the firm, right? And we can also identify that all of these points B, C, D, and E, they are all along the marginal cost curve. They are all along the marginal cost curve. Yeah. So we can say that the supply curve of a firm is basically located along the marginal cost curve, but not the whole marginal cost curve, because we don't produce when the price is P1, right, at point A here. So the portion of the marginal cost curve which is above average variable cost is the supply curve. Anything below average variable cost is not part of the supply curve. In other words, the supply curve of a purely competitive firm is represented by the portion of the marginal cost curve which is above the average variable cost curve. Yeah? As shown by point B, C, D, and E there. Right?
Slideshow slide 19. Pre-production questions. Pre-production questions. Both output determination and your compensation. The short run output determination and your compensation. The short run question answer of this work produce yes if price is equal to or greater.
Okay, this is a summary of our discussion so far.
Should this work produce?
Okay, for the short run production decision,
Answer.
the first question was, should the firm produce?
Yes if price is equal to or greater than average variable cost.
So yes, if the firm's price is at least equal to average variable cost. Yeah, anything above average variable cost, the firms will produce and minimize losses.
Focus MR equals D equals what quantity should this work produce?
What quantity should the firm produce? The firm should produce at the point where MR equal MC.
Equals D equals M over production result in economic profit.
Will they make profit? Yes, if the price is above average total cost. If the price is just equal average total cost, the firm will just break even. If the price is below average total cost, as long as it is above average variable cost, the firm will produce by minimizing losses.
Average total cost. TR with CTC. Open act. Slideshow slide 20. Firm within industry. Limit. Firm within industry. Limit. Both firm target supply. Target demand. 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 1. Quantity supply. Single firm. 2. Total quantity supply. 1,000. Slideshow slide 21. Your compensation in the long run. Your
Okay.
compensation in the long run. 12 models. Copyright. Copyright 2012 by EMC. Long backslash. Slideshow slide 20. Firm within industry. Limit.
Okay.
F.
So we have seen the supply decision of one single firm. But remember, the purely competitive industry has so many firms. Yeah. In this example, yeah, we can derive the market supply of the purely competitive industry.
Limit. Firm within industry. Firm target supply.
For example, by multiplying the quantities of output of one firm by the number of firms that we have in the market. Yeah, assuming that they are all having identical costs and having identical sizes. Yeah. So if let's say there are 1,000 firms in this industry, yeah, in the market, then if let's say at 151, this firm produce 10, and then 1,000 sellers in the market will produce 10,000. Yeah, so quantity supplied for the whole industry will be 10,000 for the whole 1,000 sellers in the market. If the price is 131, this firm will produce 9, right? So since the total number of sellers in the market is 1,000, so 9 times 1,000, you have 9,000 quantities of that output produced and sold in the market. So quantity supplied at $131 will be 9,000. When the price is 111, so the seller here will produce 8 units, so the total quantity supplied in the market will be 8,000. So in other words, we can also derive the market supply in the industry by multiplying the production decision of this seller by the number of total sellers in the market. Okay?
Slideshow slide 21. Your compensation in the long run.
Now let's turn to the discussion of pure competition in the long run.
Slideshow slide 21.
Okay.
Your compensation in the long run.
What happened in the long run?
Your goal in the long run.
In the long run,
Contract capacity.
the firm is able to expand its plant capacity. Remember, cost in the long run, there's no more variable inputs and fixed input. All inputs are now variable. So the firms can expand the size of its factory, increase the size of its land, have more inputs which are previously not able to change in terms of its amount. So because of that, they are able to expand or even reduce their capacity to produce. But not only that, the firms is also able to enter a new industry. Remember earlier we have seen that whenever the market price is too low, some firms may suffer and decide to close down their operation. So when they close down their operation, they are able to enter into other industries. So we know that whenever a firm is making economic loss, the alternative use of the resources that they are currently using will generate them better return. So negative economic loss, which has already included all the implicit costs, would mean that the alternative use of the resources would give better outcome for the producers. So whenever they found themselves in a situation where the economic loss, where they suffer from economic loss, then they may decide to exit their current industry and enter other industries which are more profitable. Okay. Okay. This is one important feature of a purely competitive market, which is free entry and exit. Okay. Let's say we assume that entry and exit is the only long-run adjustment that we consider in our analysis, and we assume that all sellers in a purely competitive firms have identical costs. Okay. And at the moment we assume that the industry has a constant cost industry, right? I will discuss on this later. Yeah? A constant cost industry means that entry and exit of firms will not have any impact on the cost of production. Okay. So whenever an industry, the sellers or the firms in the industry are making profits, it will attract new firms to enter. Okay. This will increase supply, the equilibrium price will fall, and it will eliminate all the profits the firm has currently obtained. Secondly, if the firm is currently making losses, some of the firms will not be able to absorb these losses for long, then they will decide to exit the industry, and this will result in a lower supply curve, and therefore the price will go up. Yeah, this will result in the elimination of losses. Okay, so conceptually it means that if an industry, the firms are making profit. I remember at one time there were very few people selling goreng pisang cheese. Remember, there was one time where it becomes trendy for people to sell goreng pisang cheese, yeah? Fried bananas with cheese. Yeah, I remember there's only one seller, and then after a week, so many sellers are selling it. Yeah, selling it. So in other words, whenever an industry offering good profits to the firms, we'll see that so many other sellers enter and want to produce in the same industry. Yeah, for example, now we can see that so many people start to grow Musang King durians. Yeah, so in fact, some government agencies are also promoting, yeah, local agro entrepreneurs to grow Musang King durians. The reason is because the price is very good. Yeah? The price is very high, and there is export potentials into foreign markets. Yeah? So demand is strong, price is high, profit is also very, very encouraging. So because profits are there to be made in the industry, people would want to enter into the industry and also take advantage of that profit opportunity. Alright? Okay, so let's look at the diagram here. Okay. Now, suppose that initially the market price is $50. Yeah? And let's say the market price is $50. So this is determined by market demand, D1 and S1. So the market price is initially at $50. And the average total cost of the firm is shown here. So at $50, the firm is just breaking even. Yeah? Price is just equal to average total cost. Yeah? We are starting our analysis at zero economic profit level or normal profit. Yeah? Zero economic profit is also equivalent to normal profit and also break-even point. They are all the same. Yeah? So if let's say there is an increase in demand for the product, let's say market demand shift to the right. Yeah? So D1 shift to D2. What happens to the equilibrium price? Equilibrium price will increase from $50 up to $60. Yeah, $60. Now we assume that the industry is a constant cost industry. Initial assumption is a constant cost industry. When there is increase in the price of the product in the market, yeah, firms will be making economic profits. Yeah, so price will go up from 50 to 60. Firms will be making economic profit here. So what happened? Other firms will be attracted to enter this industry. Okay, so we can see that the number of sellers will increase and supply curve will start to shift from S1 to S2. Okay, now as more and more producers and sellers enter into the industry, yeah, and supply curve shift to the right, the price will go down gradually from $60 down to $50. When the price return back to the original position at $50, then all the firms, yeah, the old ones as well as the new entries into the industry, will go back to the original break-even or normal profit level. All firms will just break even. Okay. However, the new equilibrium will be at a larger size. Yeah. Before this, the equilibrium size of the industry is at the intersection between D1 and D2. Yeah, how much is the amount here? Maybe 100,000. But now the new equilibrium size of the industry will be the intersection between D2 and S2. Yeah, even though at the same price, but at a much larger equilibrium quantity. In other words, the size of industry has expanded. Okay. Alright, so the assumption of a constant cost industry. In a constant cost industry, we assume that the entry of new firms doesn't make any changes to the cost of production. For example, if we are talking about Musang King durians, let's say initially the price was $50 per kilogram. This is the price, let's say in China, very high, $50 per kilogram. And then and because of the increase in demand, the price has gone up from $50 to $60. Yeah. So because of that, many farmers change their orchard, yeah, from, let's say, from other things into, or let's say from ordinary durians to Musang King durian. So they need to buy the things which you need to grow Musang King durian, special seeds, yeah, special kind of fertilizers, special kind of pesticides to kill all the insects that can harm the trees, yeah, durian trees, and all other kind of materials or equipments that you need in order to make sure that the Musang King durians that you are growing can grow and produce the output that you would like it to be. Yeah? So as a result, there will be an increase in the resources, yeah, in the resources to grow Musang King durians, that special seeds, special equipment, special pesticide and special fertilizers. What would happen to the price of these resources? In normal situation, the price of these resources will go up because the demand for the resources will be higher. Okay. Another example, if let's say people are making profits by selling nasi lemak, right? And because of that, you would also want to sell nasi lemak, yeah? Because you want to take opportunity of profits in that industry. So when you enter into that industry, obviously you need resources to produce and sell nasi lemak. You will also be requiring the banana leaf or the newspaper, old newspaper, rice and coconut milk. These are all inputs in order to produce nasi lemak and sell it in the market. So what happened to the demand of banana leaf? or coconut milk in this area, if there are more and more people wanting to sell nasi lemak, demand for these resources will go up, right? What would be the impact on the price of these resources? Most probably the price of these resources will go up as well. Yeah, the price of banana leaf may go up, the price of coconut milk may go up. And when the price of these materials goes up, the cost per unit of nasi lemak will also be higher. Yeah. So if that happens, then we have an increasing cost industry. Yeah? Increasing cost industry, where whenever producers enter into the industry, you have more producers and sellers. They will also demand for the same type of resources, and as a result, the price of these resources will go up. Yeah? If the price of these resources goes up, their cost will go up as well, and therefore the ATC here will shift upward. Yeah? But we are not assuming that at the moment. We are assuming that even though there are many new firms entering the industry, supply shift from S1 to S2, we assume that that will not have any impact on the cost per unit. That's why ATC curve here remains the same. Yeah? ATC curve here remains the same. So in a constant cost industry, average total cost of firms, the new ones as well as the ones which are entering, the new entries into the industry, their cost will be the same. And because the cost here doesn't change, then the supply curve here will shift and return the price back to the original price. Now let's look at the second one. Okay. Now, exit, eliminate losses. Suppose that we are starting from the same point. Price is $50. The firm here is making zero economic profit. What happens if the market demand drop in the industry? Market shift from D1 to D3. Yeah? As a result, the equilibrium price will go down from $50 to $40. Yeah? So when the price is lower at $40 here, right? The firm here is a price taker. They take whatever the market price as their selling price. So their demand curve here shift downward. So when the price here is below average total cost, they are making losses, right? So some of these firms will not be able to absorb losses for long. Some of these firms will exit the industry. Let's say there are 1,000 firms. Let's say 100 or 200 of these firms will exit the industry, find something else to go, to do. So whenever these firms exit the industry, the supply curve will gradually shift to the left. Yeah, when supply curve gradually shift to the left, the equilibrium price will return back to the original position at $50. Yeah, and therefore the new equilibrium will go back at $50, but at a lower equilibrium quantity. In other words, the new equilibrium will be at the same price but at a smaller size of the industry. And equilibrium quantity in the industry becomes smaller. Okay? Okay, from this analysis, we are able to derive the long run supply curve of the firm. Okay, in a constant cost industry that we have just discussed, we assume that the cost of production of firms does not change whenever the size of the industry expands or reduce. Yeah, and therefore the long run average, the long run supply curve, the new equilibrium will return at the same price level. And therefore the long run supply curve will be perfectly horizontal. This will not be the same as in the case of increasing cost industry or a decreasing cost industry. Okay. Let's look at. Okay. Yeah. This is the long run supply curve for pure competition. Yeah? Long run supply curve. Remember earlier, the price started from $50. Yeah, there is a temporary increase in demand. Price goes up temporarily at $60. and therefore resulted in the entry of new firms. Yeah? When new firms enter, supply increase, and the new equilibrium will be at the same price, back to the same price, but at a higher equilibrium quantity at Q3. Similarly, earlier, when there is a temporary decline in demand, price dropped to $40. Yeah. As a result, some of the firms making losses will leave the industry, so market supply will drop, and the price will return back to the same price. Yeah. Okay, and the quantity goes, equilibrium quantity goes down. Yeah? So the long run supply curve is perfectly elastic or horizontal. We can trace this from our earlier example. Okay, yeah, from here, the initial equilibrium is at the intersection between D1 and S1. And then you have the temporary increase in the price as D1 shift to D2, and then as a result of the entry of new firms, supply will shift to S2, and then the new equilibrium will return back to the original price but at a higher quantity. So the long run supply curve is just basically combining these two equilibriums. Yeah? The equilibrium point between D1 and S1 and the equilibrium point between D2 and S2. You join that, you have a long run supply curve of the firm, yeah, which is perfectly elastic or horizontal. The same thing like this. Exit, eliminate losses here. Yeah. Initially, you have the equilibrium at D1 and S1, that equilibrium, and then you have a temporary decline in demand, which caused the price to drop to $40, and as a result, firms had to exit the industry, so supply curve shift to the left, but then the supply curve, the new equilibrium will return back to $50. Yeah, so the new equilibrium is the intersection between D3 and S3. So when you combine the old equilibrium D1 S1 and the new equilibrium D3 S3, you will also have a perfectly elastic supply curve. Yeah. So for a constant cost industry, you have a perfectly sorry, this one. Okay. However, for an increasing cost industry, you will have the long run supply curve to be upward sloping. This is this will be the situation in most industries. Yeah? Where whenever there is a temporary increase in demand for the product, you have a higher market price of the product, then new firms will enter. Yeah? As new firms enter, they need to produce the product and sell it in the market, so they will also demand for the same type of resources. When they demand for the same type of resources, price of these resources will go up, so the cost of production for the firms will also go up as well. Yeah? So because of the higher cost, then the new equilibrium will not return back to the original price. Yeah? Before this, the new equilibrium goes back to the original price. In an increasing cost industry, the cost will go up as new firms enter into the industry, and as a result, the new equilibrium will be higher than the original equilibrium. Yeah? So in this case, when initially the price was 50 and equilibrium at Q1, so the new equilibrium will no longer return back to 50, but the new equilibrium will be at a higher price, let's say 55 at Q3. If there is losses, then entry will eliminate all of those losses. It will also not return back to the original price of 50, but maybe 45. Yeah. So you have an upward sloping long run supply curve representing an increasing cost industry. Okay, and if we have a decreasing cost industry, which is possible but highly unlikely, so you will have a long run supply curve which is downward sloping. Yeah, so let me summarize. The long run supply curve for pure competition in a constant cost industry will be perfectly elastic or perfectly horizontal. Yeah, the long run supply curve for an increasing cost industry will be upward sloping. Yeah, and the long run supply curve for a decreasing cost industry would be the opposite of this, downward sloping. Yeah, but in reality, the most common shape of the long run supply curve will be upward sloping. In other words, quantity supplied will increase at higher price levels.
Slide 30. Your composition efficiency. Your composition efficiency will long run efficiency is equal productive efficiency will producing your meaningful spin. Slide 31.
Okay, now we come to the last point of our discussion on pure competition, the analysis of efficiency. We have seen that pure competition in the long run will not make any economic profits. Whenever firms are making economic profit, there will be new entry of firms which eliminate all those profits. Yeah, so price will go back to average total cost. If firms are making losses, some of these firms will exit the industry and the remaining firms will go back to just breaking even or normal profit. P equals average total cost. It's not only that P equals average total cost, but if you look at the diagram, P is basically equals minimum average total cost.
Slide 31. Long running lithium single for market price quantity 00 long running lithium T FRPSG UFATC productive efficiency price equals
Okay. So P is not only equals to ATC, but P is equal to minimum ATC. Yeah, the price equals to minimum ATC. Yeah, so in other words, number one, the firm is producing at the lowest point of the average total cost curve, which represent productive efficiency. Productive efficiency means that the firm is producing at the least cost possible. And since the firm is producing at the minimum point of ATC here, the firm is producing at the least cost possible and therefore productive efficiency is achieved. Secondly, the price here can be used as a proxy of marginal benefit. How much you are willing to pay for a product represent the value or the benefit of the product to you as a consumer. And then you have the marginal cost curve here. Okay, for the long run equilibrium position of the firm, the price is equal minimum ATC and equals MC. Yeah, remember marginal benefit and marginal cost analysis. Yeah, if the marginal benefit is above marginal cost, then we should produce more in order to maximize total benefits. But if the marginal cost has already exceeded marginal benefit, which is the price, price is a proxy of marginal benefit, then the firm should reduce output. So the firm's optimum level of output where allocative efficiency can be achieved would be at the point where the price just equal marginal cost. Price is a proxy of marginal benefit, just equal to marginal cost. If the output produced by the firm is below this level, below at the point where price equal MC, below, then price will be more than marginal cost. This will be under allocation. If the firm produce more, the marginal cost is already above the price or the proxy for marginal benefit, then the firm has overproduced or over allocation of resources has happened. At the point where the price is just exactly equal the marginal cost here, P equal MR here, that is the point where allocative efficiency is achieved. Okay. Okay, pure competition is very dynamic. Yeah, so purely competitive firms will always adjust to changes in the price, consumer taste, and other factors. Remember that there are so many sellers in the market. If they don't respond to the needs of the people or the consumers in the market, they will not be able to stay long. Yeah, so if there is a change in trends or change in consumer taste or change in the way how to produce, they need to adjust as soon as possible in order to keep them competitive in the market, including adopting new technology. Yeah, including adapting new technology to cut down their costs. Remember, pure competition, the firms cannot make any changes to the price. The price is taken from the market equilibrium price. So whatever they can, they try to minimize costs. Yeah? For example, if we look at the global crude oil industry, the price of oil in the global market fluctuates. Sometimes the price can go above $100 per barrel. But recently we have seen that the price has gone down even below $20 per barrel. So the market price cannot be determined by the producers. So what the producers need to do is to control the other component, yeah, of the profit, which is the cost. Yeah? So therefore, anything that they can do in order to cut down their costs, they will try to do in order to make sure that they will have a better position to withstand any changes in price movement. Okay, and in the long run, we have seen that how firms will only enjoy normal profit in the long run. But enjoying normal profit is something that the firms wouldn't like to have. Yeah, so all firms want to have more profits, higher and higher economic profits. So technology and also product innovation is a way how to maintain customers, how to cut down costs, and how to increase profit. Okay, I think these are all the things that I need to cover for pure competition. We will continue later with other market structures. Thank you very much. Wabillahi taufiq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.